So I lost it at my husband because of breakfast. I had just gotten home from a long haul flight. I was jet lagged. I was exhausted. I hadn't eaten properly in about 18 hours. I'm vegan and there weren't options. And I was just running on empty. And I had this voice in my head as well telling me, like, you should be doing more. Why aren't you coping with this? And my husband, who is a good human, had not made breakfast. And I was pissed. On the surface, this looks like someone being unreasonable about oatmeal, but there's more to it than that. I want to talk to you today about this gap between what happens on the surface and what's actually going on underneath. What I'm going to share with you today comes from Nonviolent Communication, or NVC for short. So this is going to be part 2 of a series that I'm making to walk you through the 4-part NVC process. We're actually going to look at steps 2 and 3 today so that we can really get to the bottom of this. At the heart of NVC is this really simple idea that when we get stuck in these kind of difficult and unproductive conversations and we're going around in circles and we're snapping at each other, we're reacting to what's happening on the surface. And NVC gives us a way to look at what is happening underneath. So we're going to dig down into feelings and needs today. And that might sound a little bit soft, but bear with me. When we get through this video, you're going to view it in a totally different way. This changed my perception of the world. Think of every conversation as an iceberg. Up here at the top, we've got the surface level behavior. So that looks like what we say, what we do. It could be sarcasm. It could be snapping at someone. It could be rolling our eyes. Maybe it's saying, I'm fine, when we're clearly not fine. That's what's on the surface. The next level down is feelings. Now, feelings, I want you to get into this a little bit. Take a look in the show notes. I've got a list for you if you need to expand your vocabulary. Feelings, the more nuanced we can be with it, the better. Try to expand your emotional vocabulary so it's not just mad, sad, glad, right? There's a difference between I feel annoyed and I am livid. And then at the base, the thing that's driving it all is needs. In NVC, needs are not demands and they're not weaknesses. They are universal human requirements. They're things like rest, connection, safety, autonomy, being heard. Every single person on the planet has them. Now, here's where NVC gets a bit more specific than you might be used to with language. When we talk about feelings, we're talking about actual emotional responses. We're not talking about judgments or things, interpretations, or the story that we're telling ourselves about something. So commonly in English, we use the verb I feel and then follow it with a bunch of things that we don't actually feel at all. Let me give you some examples. I feel like you don't care. I feel like you're not listening to me. Or I feel attacked. I feel like you don't care and I feel like you're not listening to me are things that I think. I think you're not listening to me. I think you don't care about me. Those are my judgments upon the situation. I am making assumptions about your intention. If I think you don't care about me, I might feel hurt. If I think you're not listening to me, I might feel annoyed, depending on the situation. If I feel attacked, and be careful because there's a whole long list of faux feelings here. I feel blamed. I feel attacked. I feel unloved. I feel judged. All of these are, they're kind of covert judgments, really, is what they are. If I feel attacked, I might actually feel, if I think I'm being attacked, I might feel afraid. I might feel defensive. I might feel angry. Some people have that response to being attacked. So the feelings are actually pretty different. Because if someone attacks you and somebody attacks me, we might have different responses to that, which is why we want to be specific about our language. And you'll notice that the feelings are actually a lot more vulnerable and they're very difficult to refute. If you share your true feelings with somebody, they're not going to say, no, that's not true, right? If I say, I feel like you're not listening to me, you could very easily come back with, I am listening to you, or I feel like you never help out around the house. And your response is going to be like, that's not true. But if I say, I feel stressed out, you can't argue with that. That's mine. Or if I say, I feel hurt, that's vulnerable. Now I'm opening myself up to you. I'm managing to keep the dialogue open between us. Okay, let's talk about needs. So needs, this is a word that has some kind of negative connotations to some people, like to be needy has been deemed to be a bad thing. Or sometimes we see needs as a demand, like I need you to do this for me right now. In NVC, we're talking about basic human requirements, nourishment, safety, shelter, and the more complex ones, right? Like connection, community. If you don't have these things, your well-being is going to be severely affected. And you don't need to be in conflict with someone to have unmet needs come up for you. And when you don't have the language to put around what your needs are, or if you haven't seen this amazing list of needs and given yourself permission to need them, then this can come out very differently. It can come out as snapping at somebody. It can come out as blaming. It can come out as burning yourself out because you don't believe that you're allowed to rest, for example. So back to the breakfast situation. What's going on? I've gotten out of bed and there's no breakfast and I'm salty about it. And my husband, who has done nothing wrong, is copping the brunt of my attitude. What's happening here beneath the surface? Okay, so on the surface, I'm frustrated. I'm kind of pissy about it, to be honest. Beneath that is exhaustion, hunger, just generally physical depletion. The next, and some kind of shame as well, actually, because there's a narrative going on in my head that I should be doing better than I am. So there's an extra level of kind of frustration with myself there. Below that, the needs. A need for food, for nourishment. I had a need for more rest. I would say I had a need for probably self-empathy in that moment, and also just a general need for compassion and care and understanding from my partner. But I didn't really have awareness about all of that in the moment because I was also, pretty tired and just waking up. So what happened was I got pissy, he got defensive, we had a bit of a standoff. Neither of us initially saw underneath the iceberg. So that gap between what's going on in the surface and what's actually going on the underneath of the iceberg, this is what we're bridging today. We're learning how to make those connections between those two things. So here's what I want to leave you with. I want you to go into the show notes and get those PDFs for feelings and needs. And then this week, if you notice some kind of reaction coming up for you, right? You're starting to feel irritated about something or whatever it is, try asking yourself what is actually underneath this. So if you're someone who has been working on your emotional intelligence for a while, you might be like, right, feelings. That's so easy. I can totally name off all of the feelings right away. And fantastic. Maybe you don't need the feelings list for that. In that case, I'd encourage you to take a look at the needs. Go through the needs list, familiarize yourself with it, and when some kind of uncomfortable feeling comes up, what could that point you to? What might be my unmet need in that situation? And if you're really into this and you want to practice in a group, take a look in the show notes because I put a link to a free workshop that I'm going to be running. Now, this is actually a 4-part series. We've already started, but it's not too late, especially if you've watched this video, you're going to be up to speed. Get in there. It's free registration. We're going to practice in a group. This is the way to actually do this. If you start practicing with your people at home, they might get annoyed with you. It can be a little bit obnoxious to start with. So having a practice group for this is really helpful. So if you hear this and you're like, oh my God, this is what I want to do, check out the link in there Join us in the group. It's a really great group. We'd be happy to have you. In the next video, we're going to take a look at how we can apply this idea to when we're listening to other people. So it's a bit like filtering it through a translator. So stick around for that. If you like this kind of content, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments if you've had a situation like this where something appeared at surface level to be being unreasonable about oatmeal, but actually there was more stuff going on beneath the surface. I'll see you next time.